Hello and welcome to Lands Unknown. My name is Will, and today we are joined by Madeline James of Madeline James Writes and Madeline James Worldbuilds, and the proud new author of Because the Beast Came, which is coming out in April 2026?
April 9th. Yeah, we're a little over 6 weeks out now.
Very exciting, and it's quite good. I've got to chapter 8 or 9 so far.
Ooh.
And I'm very much enjoying it. Though today we've gotten together to talk about dragons. For those of you who have been watching the Spec Atlas and seen the chapter 2A entry introducing the dragons, if you haven't, then you can stick around and go check out that after. And Madeline over on her channel and on your Patreon as well is building Pillar World. And on Pillar World, you have a lot of dragons. Would you like to introduce Pillar World?
Sure. So Pillar World is a world I'm building where I'm not going to be writing in it quite yet. I'm a few years out. But I wanted to actually give myself the room to develop a world to the point where I can write a lot of stories in, versus a lot of my world building projects now have been for one-offs or short stories where I can't let myself go too crazy. So Pillar World is essentially, you have this world where there's this deathly fog that fills, the first, half a kilometer about of the Earth's surface, and the gods have risen pieces of the world as pillars. So you essentially just have small sky islands around and in various archipelagos. So we've been modeling out, the climates, the wind patterns, and how that would work on that sort of thing. And now we're building out, all the plants and how those would evolve, because we're branching off from an equivalent Earth history in the Triassic period. So 200, 300 million years ago. And then, so I'm branching off of that to do spec bio for all of my plants and my dragon ecosystems and all of that stuff. And it's been very, very fun. Yes. And the joke
and so
everywhere.
It's like a seed project as well, kind of like a seed world, but the humans are being seeded.
Yes. So the humans didn't evolve there. Humans are being brought there about probably in different areas. They'll have arrived there maybe about 10,000 years ago. So they've been there long enough to really get settled and to have fully domesticated various things, and to have forgotten mostly what came before, beyond maybe some myths and legends. But yes, they did not evolve there, or else they'd be much weirder. They're generic basic humans with maybe a little magic. All right. And then for those of you who are new to the Spec Atlas or don't look at these maps all the time, in the Spec Atlas, we're developing a world which is currently codenamed Dove. And in the first chapter, looking at the physical geography, but then we zoomed in to focus on the subcontinent of Arukia, where we did some biogeography last time. And we were looking at a bunch of different creatures. I can throw all of them up with different levels of success. But we also introduced groups of dragons, including the blue and the black dragons that we see here. And some pretty big ones, like the green dragon as well. I love that fluffy tail.
Oh yeah, no, it's a good fluffy tail. I was very happy with the fluffy tail. I was originally going to go with the ribbons like the other ones, but I was like, well, these ones are big. They can have lots of ribbons and they can look very fluffy. Let's get back to our cropped view, and we've got a bunch of folks in. We've got, oh, yep, Kate, hello, yes, dragons in the chat. I also introduced some plants in the ecosystem video. Yes, we got some cool plants. And yes, Pillow World is spreading. I was really excited about Pillow World, and I think we can kind of jump right into Pillow World with kind of the first question that I wanted us to talk about, why dragons? When you were thinking of Pillar World and making your new setting, why did you want to include dragons in it?
So, I mean, I think that there was a few different kind of inspiration points for Pillar World. I'm trying to remember where the pillar idea even came from because it's a project that I've had like kind of in the back of my mind for a very long time before I was even able to start kind of working on it. But it is any sort of project where you go to that degree of the world operating differently, things being different everywhere, like especially like not even getting into like the dragons, like you need a lot of time and space to be able to work it out. And I mean, as a fantasy lover, I've always loved dragons and I've always liked, and we'll get into this more, I think, but like there's so many different ways to do dragons. And I think it gives you so much room to do your own thing with them. And they're also just like, I don't know, they're very cool. And I wanted to do all of them. And I think when I first started talking about it, one of the things that I think you're the one who recommended this to me, I think, Drifting Dragons, right?
Yes, I totally recommended Drifting Dragons.
Yeah,
That's
and
very
I
cool
like that
shit.
like completely solidified my whole like, wouldn't it be just so cool if there's like dragons everywhere, right? Because like dragons are always at the top of the food chain. They're always these like, usually these like bigger than life kind of creatures. And I don't know, I just thought it'd be cool if it was just like all dragons everywhere. I feel like it's not the best answer, but
Well, and for the uninitiated, Drifting Dragons is, I believe, a light novel, but also a very short-lived Netflix anime series, as many of them are, where you essentially have whalers in an oh no,
it's fine.
hey, there we go, and a manga series. But the Drifting Dragons, they are whalers in airships that use exploding harpoons to hunt dragons. And most of these dragons are not shaped like dragons. A lot of
No,
them
they're
are
weird.
shaped like weird sea creatures that fly. But they hunt them, they harvest them for their resources, and they also eat them. So, uh, as any, I think that that really took off with the Delicious in Dungeon, I think is the
Oh yeah, yeah, that
English one.
idea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think a picture of them. Like you could sort of see some of them on the covers,
Yes.
but like
Dragons be cool.
there's one of them, like these little fun guys. Like they're weird. They're weird. They're
They're
cool.
weird, and I do enjoy that. And like what you were saying as well, like when I was thinking about including dragons in Dove, um, I did because part of the project I really want to focus on, the various like social science fiction
Mm,
in world building. And so if I kind of went with some of my instincts and decided to do some of the weirder spec bio and spec evo stuff,
mhm.
kind of pushing those limits. One, I think it would take a very long time to do and a long time to do well.
Yeah.
Look how long alien biospheres went on for, right? But I also wanted to sort of create a biogeography and create a collection of flora and fauna that were similar enough, but did kind of unseat some of the expectations for what we were going to see. Like if you're in a
Mhm.
fantasy setting and it's like, oh, you've got squirrels and deer and birds and ants, that can really set up expectations for what is going to happen in that setting and how it is
Yeah.
going to look. So for the audience, that can really frame the setting. And so approaching it with having stuff that's slightly different, I think can do a lot to sort of unsettle the audience conceptions coming in. And as far as dragons, grew up on fantasy. Like I don't think the world building I do is fantastic
Mm.
in like a supernatural way, and I think the dragons are pretty well grounded. No fire breathing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and if I was going to have fire breathing, I would have had it earlier in the setting and introduced it, earlier on. But drawing on dragons, looking at medieval and ancient dragons, because oftentimes they spit venom and poison and acid and things like that.
Yeah.
And in my undergrad, I was a medievalist, like, I did medieval studies. So, drawing on that background and, love of Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. It's definitely made it in, like all the dragons of Aruki are all named after the different chromatic dragons. So
Mm.
it's going to be red and black and blue and green and white ones. But yeah, just kind of setting that. And they are definitely cool. And I think based on the way that we've done them, they are quite different.
Hmm.
And do you want to? And you've done a lot about the speculative biology of your dragons
Yes.
and making cladograms
Yes.
uh, and whatnot for your dragons. So
Mhm.
if you want to bring that up, you can
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah. Me.
talk through the spec bio process. I mean, if anyone has questions about dragons in Pillar World or on Dove, you can drop those in the comments.
Okay.
But yes, drifting dragons is very cool.
Hmm.
And hello, everyone who's filtered in. All right, let's throw this up.
Okay. So this
Excellent.
is my like Notion space, which is where I've been kind of storing everything. And this is my very first like speculative biology project. Like I've created fantastical creatures before, but they've always been magical in origin or in essence, where they're not really natural creatures that would come about naturally. And because I wanted a whole ecosystem, and so far nothing about my dragons has been magical. It's all been like actually following evolutionary chains, like starting with back from the Triassic and everything. But and here's two fun fun drawings. One of the early sketches I have of like a proto dragon, so like an early one where they've branched off from Lagurpidids. And then this is one that Biblaridian did when we were kind of talking about my initial ideas way back when.
And that's in the Worldbuilding Festival, if folks want
Yeah.
to go back and watch you and Bib talk through where
Mm-hmm.
you're deriving your dragons from.
Yes. I was like, I want to do like dragons, but I want them to be like, and that's kind of what started this whole process. But I've been working through my major clades and all my subclades, which I have basically this like initial path that happened to create all these little branches of dragons. And then each one of these individual clades has their own cladograms, which I can like show in a minute. But like, for example, we have our like venom spitters, and those are probably the most closest to fantastical dragons, where like we'll have some that like spit like corrosive acid and stuff like that. They're very similar to bombardiers, bombardier beetles. We call them our humbardier dragons, I think, because they're sort of like hummingbirds, but they spit explosive. Yeah.
Are they tiny?
Yeah, they're relatively tiny. Yeah. So because they get part of their chemicals from plants, so they've co-evolved with plants to get the second half, which is similar, I think, to how bombardier beetles do it too. They have two chemicals that they combine, and that's what creates the like explosion, like explosive like effect.
Yeah. I think one of I think the hydrogen peroxide is something that they produce themselves based on biological processes. And I think the other thing that they may also produce it themselves, I'm not quite sure, but it actually is an accelerant to the reaction.
Yeah. So they're very cool. So it's my sort of like main basal dragons, right? Like they're venomous. And so that's one of the like tracks of like how that evolves. I have ones that like sort of become like spider dragons and they produce silk. And so there's various types of those. Ones that stayed venomous. We have ones that sort of became like giant like whale dragons, right? Very high altitude. The types of like wing structures and the way that they're built, they can essentially like fly indefinitely. So they're just like, soaring through the sky and doing their thing. And then just like lots of other different branches. And it's been very fun, like learning about how all this stuff works. Cause like I did not really know how any of this worked, and I've been learning as I go. But to like give an example, we have our agile insectivore branch. And so we have this like more detailed cladogram of like these are the adaptations that happened. You know, there's this early branch off that become these more like insectivore colonies. So you can think them like bees or bats. There's some similarities there in how they fit in the ecosystem. Because I made this easy on myself, and that while the number of niches and the amount of climates and biomes and stuff that are present here is not the same as on Earth, a lot of them are also on Earth. It's just a lot more limited, or they're a little different. And since most animals that are in our world don't exist there, I just have to kind of think about, okay, what exists in these niches, like these ecological niches on Earth and places like this, and then I have to fill them with dragons instead. So it's been fun. So we have like our big dragonfly hunters, because like if you know those like giant dragonflies that used to exist, something's got to hunt those, right? And that's hard to get. Like you need very specialized flight to be able to, because those dragonflies are really, really cool. They're very, very good predators.
And
Very, very good
so
flyers.
the whole ecosystem is
Mhm.
just dragons and insects, I suppose.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a few insects, there's like maybe some small rodents, but for the most part, it's all dragons. So, like for example, let me pop around real quick. Where's my biomes? So for example, with my biomes, which I think swamps we did on a stream, but I have like, you know, drawings of like what a swamp biome looks like on Pillar World, and then we like went through and we were building out all of the different types of dragons and stuff that are going to live there. And these are all dragons, right? There'll be some fish, there'll be maybe some small rodents, there'll be some insects, but for the most part, it's all dragons. And yeah, that kind of gives you a little hint of the scale of what's going on here.
Dragons all the way down.
Um,
And for the dragons, you know, we do have that they're Lagurpidids. And
mhm.
what kind of critters have you been kind of taking inspiration from when you're, I guess, designing the wings and things like that
Mhm.
too?
So a lot of mine has been so because there's in our evolutionary history, right, on Earth, we have four wing structures that have come about, right? And this is
Yeah.
if you go back and watch that the World Building Festival video with Bib. This is sort of where he opened it up with me. But like, you know, you have your insect wings, your bat wings, your bird wings, and you have your pterosaur wings. And I wanted mine to be a little different, and I also wanted them to still have very functional arms, but the idea of having like a sixth limb, like given that I was branching off of an Earth-like history and Earth-like body plans,
Mhm.
it didn't really make sense. Like I probably could have made it happen. I'm sure Bib was prepared to humor me, but like having a second like lit set of limbs kind of come out of nowhere is it would either be weird or I just have to like wave my hands a lot. But I went with
Yeah.
pterosaur wing styles because
Hmm.
they still have full use of their arms, right? The way that functionally pterosaur wings work, because it's sort of like the pinky extends out and then you have that like membrane connecting. It sort of allows them to like they have more what's the word, like endurance flight is a little bit more how that works, and also their takeoff is very different than birds. Like birds hop, that's why like if you think of like chickens and their like legs, like the drumsticks, they're very meaty because they have to kind of like hop up. Like with pterosaur wing style, they sort of do like a hurdle thing where
Yeah.
they use their arms, so like they tend to be a lot more like effective on four legs, four arms. They can crawl around, they can climb still. They have a lot more types of motion available, and that's kind of what I was aiming for. So,
Hmm.
like, I have a book. Is it up here?
Is that your pterosaur book? Is that Mark
I think
Whitten?
it's the book. Yeah, it is Mark Whitten. I
Yeah.
love this book. It's so good. It's and a lot of like the niches that pterosaurs fill is obviously it doesn't cover the breadth of what I'm looking for, but there's a lot of really cool ones in here where I can see the differences and how like you know their wings work. And you know I don't want to do the crests because like I already have the pterosaur wings, so I don't want to do the full like I don't want them to look like pterosaurs, right? I want to
Right.
make them dragons. But yeah, that's kind of been the idea. That, and I've been reading this book on the evolution of birds.
Hmm.
That's kind of been what I've been looking at. Yeah, so we had a quick question talking about the Lagurbidids. Yeah.
Right.
So as far as people know, I think Lagurbidids are potentially the closest like cousin to what evolved into pterosaurs. So they are potentially closely related to pterosaurs, but yeah. Yeah, they are not ancestors of pterosaurs. There's like cousins of pterosaurs
Yeah.
potentially.
Well, that's very cool. And there's some similarities there. I mean, I think I went for a much more straightforward route because like I picked Scansorioptids,
Mhm.
like Ichi and stuff like that, because those critters already have the patagium wings.
Mm, mhm.
And while um, it's hypothesized that they were gliding animals, I mean, hop, skip, and a jump, they could have become an animal that could have powered flight.
Yeah, yeah.
And for these dragons, I've split them up into two broad groups on Arukia. I mean, in other places, they're going to have their own kinds of dragons. But these two little guys here are one-fingered dragons, and for them, they're also arboreal dragons. They have, I mean, you can't see them here, but they have a little claw at the back so they can perch a little bit more effectively.
Mhm.
But their wing structures only has one toe touching the ground. Here we go. You
Mhm.
can see it pretty clearly here. One toe on the ground, and then they've got their second digit coming out to support the front of the wing, and then the third digit coming out and actually, being the main finger of the wing.
Mhm.
The other bone that comes off here is not a digit, but a styloform bone, or
Mm.
in the case of these guys, a couple bones that came out of the wrist. And that's kind of working off of the Scansorioptid wing.
Mhm.
So rather than working off the pterosaur wing or working off the bird wing, kind of building it off of that. However, I did want them to still crawl around on four legs. I
Yeah.
think, not crawl. I mean, they're very effective walking around.
Mhm.
They have a body that can romp around pretty effectively on the ground.
Mhm.
Um, but, designing them to be more arboreal. And they
Mhm.
also climb. So, having that one strong claw there can help them
Yeah.
scramble up different trees and things. And one of the basal characteristics they have is their claws on the wings. So they've maintained having claws at the end of their digits. Other groups of dragons in other places will not have those things. This is
Mhm.
just something that this branch kind of carries on. Not doing them any harm, and they're just keeping it around. And when I was thinking about the crests too, because they are, they look kind of pterosaur-ish. I think they kind of distinguish themselves a bit, especially in some of the look and feel.
Yeah.
But when I was thinking
Mhm.
about the
Metal
crests,
structure.
yeah, instead of having one single crest,
Mhm.
which seems to be what pterosaurs had overall, I've
Largely,
given
yeah.
them two crests kind of coming off the brow
Mhm.
from either side. Um, and I think that kind of makes them distinct. And I was also thinking of like some of the, I don't know, like the red dragon in like the Dungeons and Dragons art or whatever,
Yeah.
where it has like these two like bony horns kind of like curling
Mhm.
back. But I've been looking at a variety of dinosaurs, and I've been also looking at, I guess, including like, the avian, the birds that we have today, and thinking about like, okay, well, what if their little feathers that they have coming off their heads
Mhm.
were instead bony crests? What would that
Yeah.
look like? And I'm also trying to pick things that wouldn't interfere with their flight too much.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, we've got the two-finger dragons, and these are terrestrial dragons. They do not, well, they don't perch. They don't have like passerine behaviors, though some of the smaller ones do end up in trees.
Mhm.
Um, and that'll be in the next entry to the video. And this one, definitely takes more inspiration from Ajdarchids. Um, like the large, pterosaurs
Mm.
in the body plan and stuff like that. And where the other dragons, have only one claw on the ground, these ones have their two claws. And I think that can be, where's the one where he's flying? Let's, there we go. So we can see, that there's the one sort of the third digit comes off and forms, it's kind of the base of the wing. No, the front sort of end of the wing. And then that, whatchamacallit, the styloform bones coming off the wrist kind of create the body of it there. And something I was looking at when I think I was reading Mark Whitten's work as well, and what we have with bats is like they have a bunch of nerves and a bunch of elastic properties like throughout their wing membranes that allow
Mm.
them to change the shape of their wing.
Yes.
So part of the idea is with these green dragons is that because they're large, taking off for them can be a little difficult.
Mm.
However, they can change their wing shape by flexing and moving their third finger as well as the styloform wing bone to construct different shapes. Because if you've been looking at birds and stuff like that, people talk about aspect ratios and wing
Yeah.
loading and stuff like that.
Yes.
So they can change their wing shape to a broader wing
Mhm.
in order to soar, or they can have a shorter wing for high-powered flight,
Mhm.
and this helps them take off. Because I think the largest wingspan for these get to like 10 and a half, 11 meters.
Okay.
So like a Quetzalcoatlus or something like that. But I think there are going to be a few more on Dove that maybe are a bit larger, reaching 13 meters, but that's probably going to be the extent of it.
Yeah.
That's as extreme as it gets. And unlike you, I was only having dragons in specific niches.
Mhm.
And because I started with the idea of having monotrematiforms, so stuff that resembles, platypuses and echidnas and things like that, I was thinking what kind of niches that those mammaliforms could fill. And then if there's no birds, because birds just didn't cut it on Dove for one reason or another, fluke, twist of fate,
Mhm.
what could the dragons fill? So I was looking at like parrots, in the ways that they eat fruit. I
Mhm.
was also looking at lemurs as well for the blue dragons. And then, of course, thinking about the predatory niches. So then black dragons, another group of dragons, fill those niches of like hawks and eagles and falcons and things like that. But then we've got, some sort of mega predators that are filling niches that we don't really have anymore right now.
Yeah.
But the green dragons sort of are the apex predator that kind of shapes the ecosystem around them in a way, and have kind of constructed it around themselves. And one thing that I did want to ask is, because when I was doing dragons on Dove, one thing that was really important to me was that they were what's the term, monomorphic, right? So
Mhm.
I wanted them both male and female dragons to have like similar plumage and similar coloring and displays. One of the other things that I was thinking of too is originally when I was developing their toxungens, which is them like spitting various types of
Mhm.
noxious substances, which they derive from different places. Some of them from plants, like the little blue dragons, where they eat a variety of fruits that give them their chemical irritants they use, to the biological processes to produce them that the black dragon and the green dragon use. And when I was thinking of that, originally I was like, oh, well, the littlest dragon did it for a variety of reasons. But why would these larger dragons keep it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted it was as kind of like as a display, maybe using it in
Mm.
intraspecific conflict, using it in courting and various other rituals. But in those cases, if they're not monomorphic, if the male and female dragons aren't similar sizes and whatnot, you can have a situation, which we have with platypuses, for example, where like the male platypus has venomous spurs, and the female platypus, I think it has the spur, but it doesn't have the ability to use it, and it doesn't produce venom. So male platypuses produce venom and use it in intraspecific competition.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, other. So I wanted to kind of make it so that both dragons kept that. So making them monomorphic and making them monogamous and form these like close, lifelong kind of pair bonding,
Mhm.
where they both kind of compete and have to do display and things. And they also use it in hunting and territory defense. And of course, when the dragons are smaller, they need to protect themselves. The greens are not always this big. So thinking about how to incorporate that. So like how did you go about designing, I guess, like the family dynamics and the sociality of your dragons?
Mhm. So I think that like in general, because I do have so much more like I don't know if variety is the right word, but like I have to evolve them out to fill a lot more niches, and I have a lot of like making them I have a lot of room to do different things, right? I have different approaches to this in different places and for different like major clades of it. But some of them are going to be more, um different between the sexes where they will have, maybe one has stronger features than the other of certain forms or more dominant features, depending on which direction like the sexual selection works. Um, and a lot of it was like down to like some of it was just like behaviors I wanted to have. And different niches I wanted to be able to replicate on Earth, and then playing around with what kind of like social groups I'd want for that. So like I have ones that are, they mob predators more and they're a lot more aggressive within their own species, and they have more of a dominance hierarchy, and they do have more differences between like the males and the females in how they look. Which I haven't gotten into the visuals of it that much yet, like what those display structures are, what those sexually selected features are yet. But I know I have a large portion of my cladograms, especially the ones that are more domesticated, or the ones where we will have some domesticated features from them, where you tend to get a level of pair bonding combined with promiscuity of mating, where they have a pair bond, but they're not actually like mating with their pair bond. They're more like, we're going to be partners to raise our kids, but we can have kids with anybody kind of thing, which is something you see in birds. And also having a lot of what was the word, like helpers, right? So I was looking a lot at different types of structures of like bird families and stuff like that. So the main dragon that's eventually going to be domesticated for like riding and stuff, the way that they were actually domesticated was through people sort of inserting themselves into how their social structure works with their like bonding and basically performing those like mating rituals, because it's not necessarily like a sexual thing with those. Like that's something I really wanted to do, is like how do you justify domesticating giant flying things that will eat you, you know? So that's sort of has sort of guided a lot of my choices to make sure that I have those social groups that allow people to kind of come in and do that. And yeah, dinosaurs are from Writer 2, dinosaurs are part of the Archosaur family. Yeah, like the Archosaur family, I believe, is a much higher umbrella, and dinosaurs evolved from within that, I believe. And Lagurpitids were just one thing that was in the Archosaur family, same with like pterosaurs and all that. And
We have
yes,
another Pillar World question.
there are
Are there
snails
snails?
and general mollusks and stuff like that in Pillar World. Yes.
Did they come with people, or were they just managed to stay on the pillars?
Yeah, so there's a decent number of like water life type things that would have risen up, and also like in theory, there is still stuff under the fog, and I'm probably going to have some dragons that through like chemical processes of like I haven't gotten this far yet, but maybe they've evolved their venom in a way where they can like use it as like a protective coating to sort of be able to
Oh,
temporarily fly through the fog, and maybe would then bring things back up. Also, storms would potentially blow the fish up, and maybe that would be enough, like that they'd make it through the fog. Like, you know, it happens. You get your fish and your mollusks and your various things that have either remained or been brought around, or, you know, that sort of thing.
the fog is a constant problem, but it's not insurmountable for
Right.
various processes. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's not something where like people can go live on the ground. The way I sort of imagine it being is sort of like a sticky corrosive kind of substance. So like if you were like riding around on your dragon or like climbing down a pillar and you sort of got into it a little bit, if you got back up and like applied the like counter agent plant or something quick enough, like you like it won't necessarily kill you. Like you will probably still have like a lot of damage from where like, you know, we won't get into it, but like muscle and nerve damage and like, you know, like there'll be problems, but if it's minimal and you counteract it quickly, you can probably survive.
Hmm.
But yeah, there'll probably be some things that have adapted for that.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I do
Mm,
want to, because you were touching on domestication, and I'm
mm,
wondering, because we also want to talk about the impacts of dragons on society and culture.
mhm,
So, if people have more questions about the ecosystems and stuff like that, then we can totally return to it. Though, I think, yeah, moving towards the society and culture and the domestication and the ways that dragons work in that. So people are being seeded in
mhm,
Pillar World. They're coming from somewhere else, unlike the Dovians who come up on Dove on a different subcontinent.
mhm.
So then, did they bring anything with them? Like, what sort of roles do the domesticated dragons fill?
Mhm,
And like, people bring like dogs or something with them, so there aren't
mhm.
dragon dogs or something.
So when the seed people, right, come over, what have we been calling them? My seeple? I think that's what we started calling them in Languages of Pillar World, where we're doing the conlanging for the languages of this. But essentially, they brought some things with them. Like they sort of knew this was happening, like their own world was getting destroyed by the fog, and like, you know, whatever deities that brought them here, you know, they had some amount of window. So I'm having them bring like some tropical like I mean, there's gonna be a tropical alpaca. Like, let's be real here. That's happening.
Yes.
Maybe some like
Well,
sheep
big
goats.
big alpaca fans
Yes,
on the
yes.
channel.
My giant alpaca's over there. I'm not gonna go get it. But yeah, so like there's some things like that, and there's a few domesticated plants that they're gonna bring over because Pillar World, the plants are very different. If you're familiar with what like an angiosperm is,
Mhm.
there are no angiosperms that developed on Pillar World.
No
So
angiosperms.
yeah, because the branch off was pre-angiosperm, and the situation with the pillars, like it wouldn't actually have the same advantage that it did in our own history for angiosperms to have developed. Like they're not advantageous there. Um, and they wouldn't have had any reason to evolve those same features. Like it just wouldn't have been successful on Pillar World. So
So there's no grass on Pillar World.
there's no
No
grass. There's
grass.
no
Wow.
grass. There's no flowers or fruit in, like, there is, but not the same way that there is with on Earth. Obviously, you can have things like juniper berries and yew berries, and there will be flower-like things, but they all come from gymnosperms. So I had to branch off the plant tree too to figure that out. So there is going to be some crops that are brought over just
Okay.
because, yeah.
So
So
that
they'll
so
have
they
like
can like make bread and things.
yeah, like there are
Yeah.
ways that they could make bread using, there's going to be pine trees, there's going to be some roots that can be used to make bread. So like I've done some research on like how they could feed themselves based off just what's in Pillar World, but it's a little bit more sketchy. But yes, I have a list of like basic crops that they had originally that may take or may not take in different places. So like because they were seeded in different areas, like they may have been successful with keeping some of the domesticates they brought over and not others. So I can play around with like what they're reusing from, their original populations and what they've sort of lost. Are there podocarps? They're conifers with fruit-like structures. Is that things like let me Google that real quick. Like plum pines? I assuming you're talking about what I think you're talking about, yes, there would be things like that. Like there will be berry-like things. Arils, ARIL, there's going to be lots of those. There's going to be a lot of like pine cone things that have evolved into having a lot more fleshy substances and stuff like that. There's going to be a
Fleshy
type of
pine cones.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
no.
Well,
Fruit with skeletons.
it's sort of like how you get fruit, like
Yes, yeah.
because they want people to eat them, right? Like getting the dragons to eat them and carrying their seeds to other pillars is really going to be how you are successful in this kind of environment. Because like
Yeah.
one pillar is a very delicate ecosystem where if something happens, all the life on a pillar could get knocked out really quickly. It's just like islands, right?
Yeah.
So you still need that moving of, biological matter and seeds and things like that. I'll have to look into podocarps more, but yeah, I imagine there'd be things like that.
Mhm. So then, they bring over some domesticates, but then, so, you mentioned riding earlier in the stream, and I think you showed us a dragon chicken. What are the other roles? And then of course you've also baked in some of the social structures that people want to consider. What are some of the other things that you're thinking about for the dragons that you'd want folks to domesticate and the roles that they would fill?
Yeah, so I have a subclade of it would actually come from like a similar clade structure to where you get like dogs and bears and that sort of role that have been domesticated in some areas for like helping with hunting, helping with protection, being able to protect their herds. Because if you imagine, like if they have brought these alpacas or these sheep or whatever they bring over, or they do domesticate flightless like herd animals for meat or for milk or for things like that. Well, not milk because they
Well, like
won't
herbivorous
have milk.
dragons?
What?
Flightless herbivorous dragons?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Things like that. There's giant flying predators everywhere. Like you need a way to protect them. So being able to domesticate dragons that would be inclined towards protecting the herds, right? Which is another motivation between how I selected some of the social structures for those animals, ones that would have the kind of social groups where they could more easily be domesticated in those kinds of roles. But so we have those. We have a chain of very agile insectivore dragons that are smaller, that have a sort of similar social structure to like cats.
Okay. Yep.
And those have been domesticated to fill a similar role to cats, right? Where they would eat pests, eat insects off of things. And also they're very playful. So they'd be like playing, with you, right? So there's those. There's ones that are domesticated for like producing things from them. So I'm like, not the same degree. It's sort of like how sheep are domesticated, right? Like
Right.
they're domesticated because we've just decided how they are, but like they're not playing fetch with us, right? that produce silk, like dragon silk, and also ones that produce a resin, which is like a hardened substance that they can use to like strengthen materials because they don't have as much like ore access.
Oh, okay.
So we have those, and then the biggest one is obviously our flighted riding dragons, which are very cool. They're sort of the structure I was talking about before, where they have like lifelong pair bonds, right? Where they, they do their like dances or however they do their courtship rituals to have a mate, and then they raise their children together, but they're promiscuous in that they actually like mate with tons of other dragons or whoever catches their fancy. Um, and so the way that humans domesticated them is that they essentially have taken over that role of the pair bond. So they do the courtship rituals with the dragons, and they make that lifelong bond with them and help them like raise their children and like take care of them and guard their nests. And in exchange, they get to ride the dragon, and they provide other benefits, right? Like safe places to live and help provide food. And so they've sort of interspersed themselves into those social groups with that kind of dragon, at least.
Yeah, and so far from what we have on Dove, right? Because we only have the three kinds of dragons so far that have been introduced, and the blue dragons are an interesting one because when people start to domesticate the different species of prickle plant, which is the primary thing that they tend to eat. Let's bring the prickle plants up here. So there is the prickle tree, of course. There we have it. And we also have the herbs and the shrub, and what they produce that everybody likes is these fruits. So you have the big fruit coming off the trees and larger shrubs, and then you have the little fruits coming from the herbs and most of the shrubs. And what's special about these is that they have a lot of capsaicin in them. They are very spicy, and that's the irritant that this species of blue dragon use to spray. And these blue dragons are also the primary seed disperser. When Dovians come to Arukia, which they've developed somewhere else, and they've traveled across islands and kind of migrated along, they're gonna bring an early domesticate with them, equivalent to like a dog or something like that, from Ilea, which is the subcontinent they're from. But when they start domesticating these plants, well, now you have a situation where there are dragons who feed on the plants. If you get rid of the dragons, then other dragons will show up. So you do want to keep some of these dragons around, but in order to make these fruits more pleasant to eat for people, you want to lower the amount of capsaicin in them. But when you lower the amount of capsaicin, then the dragons that feed on them, they still spit, but their spit is not as spicy anymore. So I'm thinking about the agricultural systems or the food forests, that they develop, where they've got for pigeons, they have rookeries. So in the middle of a group of cultivated prickle plants, they will have a blue dragon rookery. And, they have a smaller population of blue dragons than those plants would support. The blue dragons eat some of the fruit, and they are more pleasant to be around because they don't spit at you. Well, they do spit at you maybe, but like it's not like being hit with mace in the face. And you can also harvest them to keep their numbers down. Spicy flying chicken, I guess.
Yeah.
But these dragons are also territorial. So, they'll look at the humans and like, okay, you're fine. You can be around. But when other blue dragons show up, then the domesticated blue dragons can, defend the agroforestry. Otherwise, you're constantly having to deal with other, roving unions, which is a group of dragons, a union of blue dragons showing up and trying to eat all of your crops. So trying to manage those expectations. There's also going to be some other groups of dragons domesticated, filling a variety of roles. There's a herbivorous group of two-finger dragons, which will be, I think that's in the third or fourth entry of the second chapter. We're going to introduce two different kinds of those gray dragons. And they're herbivorous, and the smaller ones are very similar to like geese. So, no, not necessarily a chicken dragon, but not too far off. And being able to have eggs and like a relatively easy supply of meat available through that. And some smaller predatory dragons working into that cat-like or like a falconry sort of situation. But like besides the domesticates, though, something that I'm interested in, and like the Dovians have had to deal with this the whole time,
Right.
because there's dragons in Alea, and when they've come up, they had to deal with dragons breathing various things at them. They've had to deal with these huge predators with 10-meter wingspans that can fall out of the sky and pick someone up and take them away. So like everybody has a story about a family member or a member of their band being taken by a dragon and being killed. I mean, probably quite similar to how hunter-gatherers and stuff would be attacked by big cats and wolves and bears and things. So like, how did the people in Pillarward, your Seeple, the Seeple, deal with just arriving in Dragon World, where you have little venomous hummingbirds, which I assume look cute but are not huggable?
Yeah, I think they're in one of the clades where they're like that Dino Fuzz, Pico, whatever it's
Oh
called.
yeah, the pico fibers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
evolves into like more of like a fuzzy kind of texture. So like we got some little like fluffy friends and stuff. But I imagine it was very rough. And sort of the way that I have a few ideas, and one is largely that while I am focusing on building out the areas of like initial settling, I guess, I'm imagining there was significantly more of them that happened originally, and most of those people have entirely died out because they couldn't figure out ways to survive, right, for various reasons. So part of it is that I'm like, okay, well, we have this limited set of initial pillar clusters that were settled and people arrived there. There was probably way more that all didn't manage it. But there's a few different things that would have probably helped them. I imagine that being in more forested areas would help, which a lot of it is going to be forested. You would get a lot of montane forest. We even get a lot of, I think it's a biome that we don't really have on Earth, but it's sort of, what did we call it? Let me see what it's called. What did we call it?
You want me to pop it up, or?
I'm just trying to remember what we called it. We might not have created a thing for it yet, but it's like montane shrubland, where it's still
those are a thing. Yeah.
tropical.
Oh,
But okay,
tropical.
we have a few spots of it. I think like very rare, but like not large. I just backed myself in the face. Large biomes of it, but where it's too high up to have like trees, but it's still very warm for various reasons. Like I think we have a couple little patches of it here or there, like in tropical islands and stuff. But the way the like winds move is I don't know. It's a little different, but I don't remember what I was saying. What was the question?
In the meantime, Jake, hey Jake, asks, are humans the only or most sapient animals in Pillar World? Are there things that get close? And what about your dragons? Are they clever? Are they?
Oh yeah. They're definitely more intelligent. They're definitely more in the like, our dogs, cats, orcas, that sort of, for the most part, not all of them, but most of them are definitely a lot more intelligent in ways that we would consider intelligent, but they're nowhere close to human intelligence.
Okay.
It's a little bit different. There's a question with them. Oh, God. There was a question before that I was getting to.
The
Oh, how
question,
they
how did the
survive.
people manage to not get
Yeah.
got by all the dragons?
Yes. So like those kind of biomes would not be good. The occasional savannas in our like rain shadows, not good. Because you just imagine like you're just out in the open. But
Yeah.
anywhere where there's like more of that rainforest, like the lower upper montane rainforest, would be a lot more successful. The larger predators, for the most part, aren't going to be able to fly in a very effective way in those forests. The style of wing is less uh, maneuverable. Some of them have evolved to be a lot more maneuverable, but they're also a lot more delicate
Right.
to have that kind of adaptation. So I imagine that, like in the forests, they're a lot better off. There are still larger, like flightless predators or predators that are more ambush predators that are dragons in the forest. But I imagine like they're at least not going to have the giant ones that could just come down and go and pick you up and like bite your face off in the forests. So that's probably where they'd be. And then in more open areas, like because they're going to need to be farming and doing stuff like that in the open. I imagine them having like a lot of those like spikes and stuff driven into the ground around, so they could just like run in between them, and if anything were to come down, it would impale itself on spikes. Like they probably have lots of adaptations like that, and lots of watches where they're like,
Yeah.
looking out for the dragons. And if you hear a dragon, you ring the bell, and everyone runs into the spikes or into the trees or stuff like that. That sort of thing.
Oh, we have a quick question about the montane shrublands. I'm just going to bring up here
Oh,
so you don't have to go look for it. But the
yeah.
Renzori Mountains, we can see a lot of short trees and shrubbery and stuff like that.
Probably similar. I think that's in Congo. I think those are, yeah, like they're a lot closer to water, so it's a lot more close to a maritime climate, but it would definitely have some similarities, right? Because my pillars don't get very large, so basically everything is uh has a water effect, a proximity to, being by large bodies of water. So we're not going to get any like continental climates or anything like that, but that looks like you'd have some similarity there to that. Maybe wetter.
Yeah, and just due to all of the what is it? Due to the lower CO2 on Dove, there are a lot of shrublands, montane shrublands,
Mm,
lots of shrubs. I do love the shrubs.
shrubs are cool.
Very important part of it. Yeah, and when I was thinking about the agriculture too, and like the way that the metamorphflora, which is the name for a very large group of angiospermic plants,
Yeah.
but they are largely they are, I guess, monocot plants by and large. So they're like they're not eucots, I believe,
Mhm.
which is like what people imagine normally trees to kind of look like, especially like North America and stuff like that. Um, but the metamorphflora, being able to grow as herbs, shrubs, and trees, having them to be able to grow those plants in agroforestry can definitely help them avoid things like the green dragon. Because
Mm.
similarly, it has the 10-meter, 11-meter wingspan, can't really navigate in closed forests,
Right.
right? So I think I mentioned in the video too, like this dragon sort of sticks to um, the savanna itself, or to more open forests it can kind of
Mhm.
navigate in. It could walk around under trees, but then in that case you've got a 4 meter tall uh, a 4 meter tall carnivore charging towards you. But I mean,
Right.
it's more manageable than having something strafing you with a blister agent, which would
Right.
be much more much more problematic for folks to deal with. So the way that they kind of design, especially when they become more sedentary, and the places they decided to camp are definitely with cover.
Mm.
And so, we see similar things to like the Neolithic and stuff like that, where a lot of early like hunter gatherers and stuff like that, especially in well preserved sites, like they're hanging out in caves because you cannot be attacked from above in a cave.
Yes.
And yeah, having developing structures that can provide cover from above, even if you built like out of wood with leaves on top, like a tarp like structure
Mhm.
to put over where you're hanging out. At the very least, then you wouldn't get hit by some sort of irritant passing over you.
Yeah.
Um, though in those closed forests, then you tend to then have the black dragons, the ones with those little red faces. I could bring them up quick because I've got the little art for them there. Let's go add to stage. Wonderful. Yeah. And they they're more the black dragons tend to be more Aquilian, like more eagle-like.
Mm.
Though again, they can well, like on Earth, like you have eagles with much they have broad wings that are for soaring, thinking about
Mm.
like bald eagles and stuff like that. And there are certainly black dragons that are more in that category. But then we also have I believe they're called like hawk eagles and those sorts of things. And those are
Mhm.
eagles that tend to have those rounder, shorter wings. But due to the way that they can maneuver their digits, they can kind of switch between the two.
Mhm.
And they navigate either over the canopy and the crowns, or they can go kind of under in between. But they tend to focus more on the open and closed forests on the
Mhm.
savanna. So they, you'd still have to deal with these guys. But if we look at the standard reference world builder, they're. I thought it was very funny how he's waving and I'm waving, I guess, and you got the Minotaur or the green
Yeah.
dragon towering over. Um, but yeah, the black dragons are height wise, somewhat imposing. Like some of them could be wolf sized or whatnot. So they're still not something you want to deal with, but I think much more manageable
Mhm.
than a green dragon. Though, and I think I don't think I mentioned it in the video. I think it was something that got cut. Um, the there A lot of the toxungens that are spit are like either like a white or an off-white, like yellow color, because that's what we tend to see for these different kinds of acids
Mm.
and cantharidin and like the different agents. But because this guy spits a near boiling solution of hydrogen peroxide and a bunch of other things, the solution is accelerated with catalase, which we have in like our bodies and our blood and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I was watching people pour hydrogen peroxide into blood, and it created this like bubbly pink foam. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
well, obviously they spit like a pink bloody colored
Yeah.
because like I did want because I think earlier on I was talking to someone and they were like, oh, you want dragons, oh, they could spit blood, and I was like, I don't know if that has the intent, like the effect I want it to have. But being able to spit some pink bloody looking near boiling substances is pretty fun.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very
um
cool.
but yeah, and I think someone in a video yesterday when mentioning no, some in a comment on a video yesterday was talking about, it's like, oh, how would think in the ways that people would interact with the green dragon. They're like, oh, hunting those things would be a problem. And I was like, I don't think they're a hunted thing. Uh,
Yeah.
it would probably be, like in the same way, like I don't think people really hunted bears
Mhm.
in most cases.
Yeah.
Maybe a bear is you're in a bear's territory and it's causing problems and stuff, and maybe you try to drive it out or something like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, the coming of age ceremony where someone has to go hunt a green dragon would definitely be a very significant funnel for that society.
I mean, if they've got overpopulation problems.
That's true. If you've got and this is a something that tends to happen in like agricultural societies as well,
Mm,
especially depending on the inheritance system that you have. Like, a lot of inheritance systems for agriculture, you've got like one son usually
mm,
in like a European, well, Eurasian context, Afro-Eurasian context. You got one son, either the first one, last one, what have you, who inherits your farm. You may have a bunch of other sons lying around. What are you going to do with them? They could go set up a new farm somewhere
mm.
else. They could set up a farm either in a different community, set up a new community, or on the periphery. But at some point, there may not be any more spaces to set up. So
Yeah.
what do you in that case? Hey, maybe you could try to hunt a dragon. I don't know. See what happens.
Bring the family glory.
Yeah, yeah.
Green dragon health.
Any extra kids can be sent to the local dragon lair. And that was something I was thinking about too, because it's like I do want them to like collect treasure at some point.
Mhm,
It's like, well, they don't. Well, maybe some of the dragons like collect shiny things to put in their layers as like a,
mhm.
because birds and other critters do that.
Yes.
Um, but I do think it'd be funny. It's just like, oh yes, like all of these riches and all this cool stuff from olden times is there, and it's like, yeah, that's just because like people just be dying in the caves.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do
Um,
have a group of dragons that wait, weren't you there with the ranching dragons? Were you there when we were talking about
I don't
that?
think I was there for the ranching dragons. I was there for the
Mm.
lekking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lots of lekking. Yeah, there's some that have like some ranching tendencies and some that like to, as a courtship mating display, they like to show their like prowess and they'll go gather a bunch of different like flightless dragons that can't run away and like pick them up and bring them to their pillar and be like, look at all of these great dragons I caught for you that now just live here on our pillar and we can eat them later as a nice snack, you know?
They're creating. This reminds me of like Star Trek episodes where they create like zoos, and
Hmm.
like sometimes humans end up in them.
Yeah, I could see that happening. They catch the.
They catch a human and bring them to a pillar, and nobody's
Hmm.
there, and it's like
Hmm.
great.
Now you live here. Could have a whole story about that where you get two people, the only two people in the whole pillar.
An Adam and Eve situation.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I've also been thinking about the ways that dragons are going to work in the like spiritual beliefs and religious and
Mm-hmm.
like the cultural belief systems.
Hmm.
I think on the live streams, we've been talking about the sun and praising the sun,
Hmm.
mostly because my desk is right beside this huge window and the sun just kind of glares in.
Hmm.
On the rare times it is sunny during the winter where I'm at, because CSB climate. It's
Hmm.
most of the time it's raining, except when I need to record, and then it's very sunny. Um, so yeah, thinking about the ways that different dragons can kind of work into that system, and when I think about the golden-tailed green dragons,
Hmm.
I think they could be like a very interesting draconification of the sun. So in some ways, thinking about the layers and like amassing wealth.
Hmm.
Well, what do you do to your local green dragon? You bring it stuff. Like you could bring it, a dead Yale, like some sort of megafauna to keep it
Hmm.
busy, and then you drop off a bunch of gold, and then you do this for generations, and then in 1,000 years, you have people who are like, oh well, we can like you can make a quick buck by trying to pillage a green dragon lair.
Because this is all
Um,
these old offerings.
but like you could have, and how the green dragons tend to work is that the main territories have a pair, and that
Mhm.
pair as a union has their juveniles, and the juveniles tend to live in proximity until they
Mhm.
kind of go find their own territory. But when if the pair dies or what have you, or if another dragon takes that territory,
Mhm.
then the juveniles that are related could become one of the new pairs, right? So you
Mhm.
constantly like you could
Mhm.
have and these dragons live for quite some time, especially the large ones. So, it could be a few hundred years later, and you have a direct descendant of the dragons that started being worshipped still living there. And you could have someone decide that they were gonna, try to loot from them.
Mhm.
So you could have this story. It's like, oh yeah, there's a dragon that lives there with the, what's like a classic like Forgotten Realms dragon name, like Skizzlerix or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, something like that.
very. I'm totally not doing that, but I do think it's very. You need a lot of Z's and X's in role playing dragon names.
Mhm.
Like, oh, Skizzlerix has lived there for generations. A very long lived old dragon. We thought we slayed it one time, but it returned from the grave. They're very hard to
Mhm.
kill, and it's like,
Mhm.
over the generations. Like, there's been a handful of dragons that are the descendants of the same one that live there. So I think that would be very fun to kind of incorporate. And since dragon, especially the large ones, tend to live in large caves, so there'd be some competition in places between
Mhm.
people and dragons for caves
Mhm.
as their layers, the natural formations. Um, and I think it would also be interesting if they're worshiping the dragons, do what people do and start like showing up and sculpting and like, carving in things. And again, because I plan on working on the world over like chronologically, right?
Mhm.
So the first chapter introducing humans is going to be like their migration period, moving in and kind of getting settled and diversifying into the regions a bit. And then working through like different periods of their history. So yes, at one point we'll talk about them worshiping the green dragons and personification of the sun. And then, the next chapter will be, 1,000 years later and see what they're getting up to. But it would be fun for people, showing up and it's like, why does this dragon like, why is this temple like it looks like a temple. It's filled with statues and all these things and dragons live there.
Mhm.
And I think that would be, also an amusing thing because this is the question I had when playing Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. It's like, why are there these huge labyrinthian mazes and things? And
Mhm.
and now we have an answer for that question. It's because people worship dragons.
I like that. It makes a lot of sense.
What do we have here?
Mhm.
Skizzlerix could show up in Rick and Morty. Yeah, Skizzlerick. Okay.
Oh.
Um, how difficult would it be for humans to interact with a juvenile green dragon? I mean, I mean, you could find one and you could like go up to it, but do you mean like how easy would it be to have a positive interaction with a green dragon? A wild one? Like I think it would be a very difficult time to have a positive interaction. I think the smaller ones may just try to get away. Ones that are somewhat human sized would probably spit at you, and they have vesicants, so it's like a chemical burn agent causing blisters and stuff. That would be a bad time.
Yeah.
And the ones that are larger would see you as a snack. So I think that's. And the juveniles, I think the dragons take 8 or 9 years to become adults. So the subadults can be quite large. Juveniles doing a lot of lifting there. Oh, Ainu raising bear cubs and stuff. That would be
Mm.
interesting. Yes, you could try to steal a green dragon egg and raise it in a cage.
Mhm.
One fun thing about the dragons in Arukia is that they coat their eggs in their toxungeon. So you'd want to pick up the egg at some point between those applications, or else if you tried to pick up a green dragon egg, it could cause blisters and burning on your
Mm.
skin. So that would not be a fun time.
Yeah, ouch.
Ooh, pillar world
Mm.
question. Living on the pillars with a few other families for generations must be so culturally interesting. Have you been thinking about how the pillars constrain and kind of create, the cultures here?
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, to some extent, I am avoiding thinking about it too specifically for too many areas until I have an idea of what kind of story I might be able to tell there. Because the idea is like I will have all these different like cluster regions set up that I can kind of expand in different ways, depending on what kind of story I need to tell. But I definitely have some general thoughts on them. I know, and a lot of it depends on what the travel between the pillars is going to be like how isolated are they really? Because we have one cluster that we built out with the patrons that they're a lot smaller, but they're close enough together that they've been able to build silk rope bridges between them. Like it's close enough that the tensile strength of the silk would be strong enough for that. So they just have lots of bridges connecting it, and it's a more like urban setting. But for the pillars or pillar clusters where you can really only go between them if you're riding a dragon, travel between them is going to be very limited. So you, the one that I have like that right now has sort of a kind of a cross between city states and like a clan structure, where you have this one larger pillar that sort of has more access to different things and sort of backs the like leading this what would you call it, like a tribal, not like tribal, but like a
Like a
clan.
confederation or
Yeah,
something
like a
like that.
confederation between all the individual clans that live on the different pillars. Because it's they're relatively protected. It's kind of hard to go siege a pillar. Like obviously you have the flying dragons and stuff like that, but like you're not moving around huge numbers of people suddenly. So like
Yeah,
warfare
the
between them.
yeah, I imagine like the logistically
Mhm.
getting people there, like because you have your flying dragons and the gliders that you can talk about, so you could pile a bunch of people in a glider, but like the being able to marshal enough dragons and enough gliders to like actually take a larger island
Mhm.
could be like quite an endeavor. You may need multiple of these different small polities to come together in order to make something like that happen.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of it provides a little bit of stability in that sense, but you still have a decent bit of, things happening. And yeah, like Jake, you're mentioning, like there's gonna have to be mixing of the gene pools between the different pillars at some point, especially for the more isolated ones. Like having people migrate around between them would be beneficial. I know we've talked a little bit about I want to do like some sort of moiety type system with some of them. But yeah, I haven't gotten too far into how it'll work other than like one or two pillar clusters. But
Yeah.
it's definitely like getting into how do you make sure there's not too much inbreeding. And also just the economics of it is very interesting. I did a whole stream with Mateus back with the World Building
Right.
Festival. We were talking about like the economics of it and how it would work, and like how communicate, like even just communication between the pillars is going to be very interesting. The movement of goods is very interesting. Um, Stuff like that.
Oh, and Patrick, yes, I believe you commented about domesticates, yeah, a couple days ago or yesterday.
Mhm,
Yeah, no, I was definitely thinking about your comment and a couple others
mhm,
when I was like, putting that together for today. And we've got the tyranny of the dragon equation. Yes, Kate, excellent. And Jake has a posing of having a matchmaking service.
mhm.
Um, that would be, you could have someone has literally a book of men
Yep.
and women who could get married and fly around to the different islands,
Mhm.
and that would be uh,
I won't give away my story idea that I have. It's like one story I know that I'm writing in the like clan-based pillars,
yeah.
that main archipelago that we built first. I know what story I'm writing there, and I won't give away all the details, but I will say that the running title of it is the Bond Makers. Bond Maker coming off of Matchmaker, so 'tis a thing.
That will be fun. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Um, oh yeah, and then the elites or the noble classes of the islands would be interesting. And I
Mhm.
do want to mention too that like I mean when we think of like Greece, for example, we
Mhm.
think of like a city state, but a lot of what we think of city states were more like citizen states. Like they didn't
Mhm.
necessarily have an urban center.
Mhm.
So you could have a group of pillars that are somewhat smaller deciding to come together and like
Mhm.
form a sort of citizen polity and stuff, because we do
Yeah.
have some examples of that.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what becomes of the dragons of Pillar World. Though
Mhm.
you're largely doing for Pillar World, a lot of it's on your Patreon, but then you also
Mhm.
have. It's just the languages that are on the public live streams right now,
I've
right?
done a couple of small videos. Obviously, there's the initial stuff that I was talking about people with during the World Building Festival. So there's a few streams from that. And then I did one stream where we worked on one of the biomes. Was it the,
Was it the
that
Savannah
wasn't
one?
the swamps. Yeah, I think maybe it was the savannah. Is that the, yeah, I think it was we built out the savannah. Like came up with dragons for that on a public live stream. But yeah, everything else has been we've been working on it with the Patreon. So I do right now it's 2 times a week. And usually we're working on something spec bio related or mapping related with Pillar World.
Excellent. And yeah, so far, I mean, the dragons I was keeping a tight secret until the chapter 2A came out,
Mm-hmm.
because folks had seen the monotrematiforms, especially from the World Building Festival. You saw the the Capals, or the,
Mm-hmm.
I think at that time I was still calling them Echid Norses,
Mm-hmm.
with their jumpers,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
their sweaters on.
yeah.
So like, so when I've been showing critters on the stream or whatever, they also tended to be monotrematiforms.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the dragons were a fun reveal to keep for that. But now, I may right now for the lives we're doing the close climate studies.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're almost done the close climate study that we're almost done the close climate study that we're working on right now. So we'll see what folks on the live stream want to work on next, because there could be more dragons in the future on live streams too. That could be a fun thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've been excited for the dragon reveal because like I've known about the dragons for a while. I've been excited for them to be public knowledge.
Yes. So now the dragons are out there. There's a couple more. There are a few more families of arboreal and terrestrial dragons that have yet to be revealed on Arukia. And of course, there's a bunch of different species within those that are going to be shown over the next few entries into the second chapter. And it's always something I could return to. Just having a whole one on dragons could be a fun time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we have, I don't know how long you have tonight, but we could take a few more questions. I mean, we're almost at an hour and a half mark.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Throw your best unhinged questions our way, or hinged, but preferably unhinged.
your best hinged and unhinged questions. They can be, about dragons, but also just Pillow World or Dove questions more broadly.
Yeah. I just realized I have like a D&D-esque dragon right here. Didn't even realize that's right there.
And I got, what is it? Up here, I think. I've got my little dragon, and that's very much a D&D inspired one, though I'm going to redo the icon with a Dovian dragon at some point. So I think that'll be a good time.
Yeah.
Do you have doors in your worlds, and do they have hinges?
These are the types of hard-hitting questions we like to answer over here.
Yes. At this point, no, there are no doors on Dove. The period of doors will start in chapter 3. Probably at the end of chapter 3, you'll have some doors and hinges. So so right now the world is unhinged. This is the unhinged era.
Could you pull up my screen share? These are the structure inspos I have for the archipelago cluster, to sort of help with the winds, because the winds are sort of a problem. But so you'd expect these, and also there will be doors though, in some places, but not necessarily everywhere.
Not necessarily everywhere. All right. So significantly fewer doors than we have today.
Yes.
And for the winds in Pillar World, because I guess, yes, the pillars are a few kilometers up on average.
Yes.
So they're not getting the surface winds. They're getting the the mighty winds that are further up in the,
Yes.
what's it, troposphere, stratosphere. How high does the troposphere go? This
We
is something
did
I should
this.
remember.
I don't think I have it here. I have a whole a separate thing that we were doing earlier where we were doing all of this sort of look. But yes, the winds, the sustained winds at this altitude for basically anywhere that it is habitable by larger societies is going to be there's definitely a lot of winds. I think and actually it's in here somewhere. Hold on.
It's like
Where's my
a
notes?
dozen kilometers. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
A
here we
dozen
go.
kilometers for the troposphere.
So the idea is that part of the magic that's sustaining these pillars, right? Because there has to be something in the nature of that is resisting erosion, or erosion would be a serious problem on top of these pillars that have been around for 200 million years, right?
All
So
your pillars would start looking like this.
right. I mean, yeah. Uh, so obviously that's not happening. So there's a part of the magic that sustains the height of the pillars and the structure of them also resists a level of erosion and adds stability to them. It also provides a level of wind dampening to the sort of like regions right above the pillars. So I think what we calculated out was that 10, once it reaches a 10 on the Beaufort scale, that is when the dampening effects for the winds on the pillars really starts to kick in. So you get to about a 9 where you get slight structural damage, but you're not going to get much faster than that because you're going to have a lot of tropical storms coming through here. You're going to have a lot of just general higher wind speeds. So we're trying not to have everyone get wiped off the pillar constantly by hurricanes and stuff.
And a dragon related question. What is your cutest dragon?
Ooh, okay. Okay. I don't have drawings of these, but I do have an inspo picture. So our cute
that'll be
little
good. That'll be good. I'll make you bigger so you can.
Let me pull them up. But they're essentially going to be the ones that fill that sort of like cat niche where they're your very agile insectivore flyers. They're relatives of the ones that can hunt the larger ones that can hunt the like giant dragonflies.
Yep.
Let me find them. Where are these? They're so cute. They're so cute. They're fuzzy. Here we go. They're sort of inspired by these friends, which are arguably the cutest pterosaurs. These are very tiny.
The little Muppety ones.
Yeah, the little Muppet face ones. So they have, wow, I can point, the really short, really wide mouths, and their wings are different. Instead of having those really rigid wing bones, which most pterosaurs have, theirs are more flexible, so they can actually curl them in. So what you get is they can like sit like this and have their little wings tucked up under them, so that they can be less conspicuous. Because like when you think of like pterosaurs, they always have those giant wings sticking out. But these guys aren't like that. And part of the reason they have that is it allows them a significant amount of flight agility. That's why like they hunt flying insects, which you kind of talked about this a little bit with like being able to move and change the shapes of those wings. They have a lot more ability to do that with that kind of wing structure. So excellent. They're very cute. Their little eyes and little faces and the fluffy.
Question from the chat. No food is coming soon, Will, but do you have a good idea? How good of an idea is it to eat your dragons? Do the toxungeons make the meat spicy? So, a vast majority of the dragons, so for the ones that eat stuff that has an irritant, like the blue dragon, like the what are they called? The yellow crested blues. They eat the prickle plants, and that has the capsaicin among other things in it. They do end up having some capsaicin just in them. So they, so that would also deter things from eating them in particular. I mean, the red wings black dragons don't mind spicy food, because they eat the yellow crests. So they don't really, care all that much about it, but it does deter some of the smaller, predators from, trying to take a bite. They're not always the tastiest thing. Uh, but then we have others. There's one in the next video. There's going to be there will be plants that have things like I don't know, like hydrocarbons, like latex and stuff in them, right?
Mm.
Like, you know, latex is something that appears in a lot of plants on Earth, especially in tropical regions, which Rukia right smack dab in the middle of. And you know, if a dragon eats that, it is not going to be putting latex throughout its body. A lot of creatures like bugs and you know, there's some birds and things that like primarily insects though that like eat plants that have like latex and things in them. They tend to um, have ways of sequestering it
Mm.
in parts of their body, but that's more of like an arthropod, like a bug thing,
Mhm.
or they're like putting it into their feces. So some stuff like that, like dragons that eat things that are like more obviously toxic, they'll either move that stuff to their toxungin gland or sequester it in their feces and get rid of it that way. Though, I mean, if you were under one of those dragons when it let loose, it would be much more unpleasant than getting hit with bird droppings as it is. Um, but like, yeah, the blue dragon is a little spicy. There's going to be some dragons that eat plants that are like rich in tannins and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, you know, you're going to get some more bitter notes. Uh, they'd pair well with a red wine.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so like thinking about some of the food culture around that, and you know how much people enjoy those, and yeah, some of the herbivorous dragons they did definitely sequester some of the irritants that they also use for their toxungins
Mhm.
throughout them, which will definitely be something more as a note when like people, you know, arrive. Uh, Other dragons, like the black dragon, I mean, you wouldn't want to eat the toxungin gland. Like that would be bad. It's full of hydrogen peroxide. For the green dragons, you know, with their vesicants and stuff like that, again, you wouldn't want to eat the toxungin gland. But a large portion of the animal could hypothetically be eaten, though. For the black dragons and the green dragons, they are you know, they're predators, right? Like we don't often eat like eagles and hawks and things like that. I mean, maybe
Mhm.
somebody does occasionally, but that's more like an elite display or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, so uh, yeah, so that's kind of the you could have the equivalent of I guess puffer. Yes, a puffer fish specialist chefs. Yeah, so some of the dragons and some of the critters that are more like explicitly storing certain venoms in them. And then there are some dragons that um, are like venomous in a way that like we would see as like snakes, you know. So like their toxungin is like paralytic, or like, you know, an axe with our cardiovascular system or something like that. You definitely want a pufferfish type specialist cutting away the parts that you would not want to eat from that dragon. So
Yeah.
that would totally be up for grabs there. And then I did mention the herbivorous dragons, and you know, like if they're eating all sorts of stuff, they're collecting all kinds of terpenes, and they'll have those inside of them, and they'll be spraying those. So part of the domestication process, as I mentioned with the yellow crested blues with the prickle plants, is like as you domesticate the plants, and you know you make those more palatable for people, you're also the dragons that are eating those things are going to become, in most cases, like less irritating with their toxungins when they spray them at you, which, you know, in turn makes them nicer to be around.
Yeah.
Though I imagine like what llamas and camels and stuff like that spit. So there will probably be a decent amount of um, of those kinds of interactions that show up on Deviant social media at some point in time. Though I may spare them and not invent social media in
I mean,
on
that would be
Dove.
great.
You have like a little thing coming across your doom scroll, someone getting hit in the face by a huge wad of
Dragon spat.
Milky dragon spit.
Lovely.
Yeah.
It's a great mental image.
Yeah. For those folks who can. Yeah, it seems like we're
Mm-hmm.
good on questions. We've gone
Mm-hmm.
for an hour and a half. Is there anything else that you'd like to uh anything else you'd like to share about Pillar World and the dragons, or anything else that you're working on?
I mean, right now I'm really just in the writing cave trying to write book two. So like all my like side world building stuff and like all that other stuff has been very much like limited to what I'm doing with like Patreons and on stream right now. Cause I'm just the deadlines. Ugh.
SpecCon.
Oh, oh yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Thanks, Jake. Yeah, I'm also organizing a world building conference.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Good things to remember that I'm doing in Ireland in June, on the 6th of June in Ireland. So if you're in that thereabouts region and want to go to a cool conference, we've got lots of really awesome people speaking there. And in 2 years, we'll do it probably somewhere more in the North America area. And maybe we can get our very own Lands Unknown to do a talk. We do it more over
Ayo.
here.
Yeah, I have a different conference for my academic doctor stuff in June at the same time, so I can't go to Ireland. But here is the SpecCon on Eventbrite. When this is what's his name? Tato the dragon is the mascot for SpecCon, and this grew out of like the World Building Festival. Yes.
Yeah.
So still lots of tickets. Make sure to jump on if you can. And is there going to be an online portion for people who can't be in Ireland?
I have no idea. So the thing with it is, it's so hard to predict exactly what the setup is going to be. Like, again, I'm not going to like fly over to Ireland in advance to check it out, right? So once I go in the day before to do all of the like make sure all my setup stuff's working and I know how to like, make sure I have the right cables and I know how to work it. I'll see what they have set up wise, and it's also going to depend on what volunteers we have there. Like if there's someone there that's like, hey, like I'll try to set up a stream or try and set up recording, because like you have to deal with the whole like there's like the video part of it, right? Are you going to try to record the screens? Are you going to try to just film it? How do you get the audio? Are you like, is there microphone? Like it's just very complicated. So if there is a way that we can attempt it, I'll attempt it, but I'm going to make no promises because like it's already a lot to figure out and get working without trying to ensure something like that is going to work. So
excellent. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to SpecCon. Hopefully we'll be able to stream it, but if not, then one may come to North America when that comes around. If you want to check out anything from Madeline, we've got links in the description to Madeline's website, where you can pre-order a copy of Because the Beast Came. There's also a link to the Patreon and your two YouTubes, because you're on Madeline James Writes, where you are documenting your writing journey. And then you've also got your world building channel, where you have a guide to kind of get people from, I guess, zero to building cultures, as well as going through the process of like physical world building and the physical geography stuff too.
And all the conlangings over there too.
And all the conlang. Excellent. And then my stuff is also in the description. You can check out the Spec Atlas right now just on YouTube. We've got World Building Festival. One thing that we did together, the paranormal thing, that was really fun.
Yeah, that was a great time.
That next World Building Festival, we'll have to continue adding more critters. To that.
In 2 decades, we'll be co-writing a paranormal fantasy together.
I mean, I think that would be really fun. I think there's a lot of ground there, especially with like the gnomes and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you everyone who jumped on to watch. And I'm live streaming tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific.
Mhm.
I believe, Madeline, you're on Wednesdays and Fridays.
For Patreons.
Oh, what's the other
Uh,
one?
my public one is Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and that's the conlanging one.
Excellent. So you can come check out some climate mapping tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then I guess that would be noon Pacific time on Monday. You can check out Madeline, and is it Jake and or Bib?
Yeah, so Monday will be Bib. Usually Jake's there, but Bib is we're gonna work on the verbi ergative daughter for our sepal.
The verbi-ergative language for the sepal. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. I'm going to close it out here, and I hope to see everyone tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you.